Hello and welcome back to Studio Session. I'm Katherine and thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. Starting right off with today's report, for our reading, I'm still reading Little Woman. Guys, it's a long book. I know I keep saying I'm reading this, but I genuinely still am, and I don't have a ton of time to read a bunch of chapters in a day. I read like a chapter or two a night, so I'm still working on it, but hopefully during break I can finish it. For eating, last night I made my family's favorite pretzel snap recipe. It's like those little pretzels that are in the shape of squares, and then you melt a Hershey Kiss on top and then put an M&M on top, and it is the perfect salty and sweet Christmas treat, and my family eats so many of them every holiday season. For playing, of course, I'm playing Christmas music. I can't wait. Less than a week. It's almost here, guys. For obsessing, I think this kind of goes hand in hand with my holiday love, and that's the color red. I have red nails right now, and I just love the color red. Clothes, anything. Loving red. For recommending, I recommend going to bed early. I've been going to bed earlier and earlier, and I think this is just because I'm getting even more tired at the day's end, but it just makes me feel more refreshed in the morning. So definitely get to bed early. And for treating, I've been treating myself to some new canvases because this Christmas season I'm determined to DIY some gifts, so I've been painting some canvases for friends and family. That's it for today's report, and let's get right into our main segment. I am joined with Lucas for our main segment. Today's album review is The Slow Rush by Tame Impala. This is our second Tame Impala album review. This is an alternative album that was released fairly recently in 2020. So starting right off with my favorite song in the album, this is going to make me sound very basic, but my favorite song was Borderline. This is definitely the most popular track in the album, but I think definitely for good reason. The beat is so catchy, and I just absolutely love this song. Nothing really bad to say about it, I think. The beat, the tune, the vibe, everything was spot on. An amazing song.
My favorite song on this album is One More Hour. This is the final track on the album, and I gotta give this song the nod because it is the song that got me listening to Tame Impala originally. Those TikTok edits, heard it on TikTok a couple times, I'm like, this song is really good. Added it to my playlist, and then I heard people talking about Tame Impala. I'm like, I'm gonna listen to this album, and then The Slow Rush became Currents, and Currents became Lonerism, and so this song pretty much led me down the Tame Impala path, so I got to give it the nod. It's a great song, pretty long, and just the transition from One More Year at the start of the album to One More Hour. I feel like the Tame Impala projects really have an emphasis on time and the passing of time, and this is a perfect track, so I'm going to say that it is my favorite song on the album.
For me, I think that One More Hour would have been higher up in my ranking if it was a little shorter because I absolutely loved parts of that song. It just felt a little too dragged out for my personal liking, but I also really enjoyed One More Hour. For my second favorite on the album, I gave it to Is It True? The tunes in this song are just insane. I loved the background instrumentals with the vocals. This is just such a fun, upbeat song. Made me want to get up and dance. Just very, very catchy. So my second favorite was definitely Is It True?
My second favorite from this album, I said Borderline. I feel like you can't go wrong with this song. Like Katherine said, it's pretty popular, but it is a great song. The production is obviously there, as always, with this prestigious group, and it's catchy. You can put it in any happy playlist, so I'm going to say Borderline is my second favorite song on this album.
Of course, we said our favorites, which does unfortunately lead us to our least favorite on the album. For me, this one was Glimmer, but because this was an instrumental, I don't really feel fair talking about it as my least favorite. So my second to least favorite was On Track. I noted that this song was just boring and kind of slightly repetitive. I just really didn't like it. It's not that I avidly hated it, there just wasn't really much to say about it, so unfortunately I gave On Track my lowest rating.
Okay, so I also had Glimmer as my least favorite song, and then my runner-up was On Track. So I'm gonna go with this might be an unpopular opinion, but not counting those two because I'm trying to be different today. I'm going Lost in Yesterday. It's not even a bad song. It's just the worst out of the remaining songs after we take those two out. I just don't like it as much as the other ones. It almost annoys me a little bit. So I'm going to say Lost in Yesterday, which is technically my third least favorite song on this album, but it's the least favorite for right now.
Interesting. That one is probably kind of more up in my rankings, so that's very interesting. Okay, and for our final category, we have our underrated pick, and I gave this one to Breathe Deeper. I thought this song was so fun and catchy. The beat was upbeat, just a great song. The lyrics kind of talked about like letting go, breathing deeper, and I liked at the end there were kind of some fun rock instrumentals, but I liked how the instrumentals weren't too excessive. I think a common theme that I'm noting is that a lot of the times when the songs are longer, I find myself kind of like getting bored and I wish they were shorter. But I think this one did a good job of having a good balance between instrumentals that kind of gave it some more length but wasn't too over the top. So I think Breathe Deeper is my underrated song.
Shout out Breathe Deeper. I love that song, and I really love the Lil Yachty remix. Just a great song. I listed it as one of my 5 favorite on our premiere podcast. I recently went on a field trip with my buddy, and he has these crazy headphones I had him on. Oh my goodness, what a song. For my most underrated song, I'm going Is It True? This is just, I kind of like the lyrics, honestly. It's a pretty lyrically pleasing song, and per usual, it sounds awesome, and the instruments are all flowing, and it just fits great in this album. And then you have It Might Be Time after that. Kind of tells you the lead up from One More Hour, the anticipation, starting at One More Year, and then you're working through the album. You get to Is It True? It Might Be Time. He's making a decision in himself in the album. So I'm saying the most underrated song on this album is It True?
Definitely a great pick. I'd also like to give a shout out to Instant Destiny. This is another song that I really enjoyed, just didn't really make any of my superlatives today. Okay, so for my overall ranking of this album, I gave it a 7 out of 10, definitely a very solid score. For a Tame Impala album, I think I definitely preferred Currents, but I love Tame Impala, so there were definitely some amazing songs on this album that I really enjoyed. However, there also were some forgettable ones in my opinion. Like I mentioned, my least favorite On Track, I said it was kind of boring. I thought this was the case for a couple of songs on this album, just ones that didn't really stand out. However, there also were some amazing ones that did really stand out, so I think with that balance, it rounds out to about a 7 out of 10.
So I'm going to give this album a 9 out of 10. I really like this album, and there is some forgettable songs, but for the overall majority of this album, it's pretty good music, and it's 12 tracks. It's not necessarily long, although some of the songs may be on the longer side a little bit, and it's pretty up-to-date production-wise. It definitely has good vocals, good meanings in the songs, and plus it comes with some B-sides and remixes that I suggest you check out as too. There's a 17-minute version of One More Year, which, listen, I have a study playlist that's just kind of like ambient noise, and that kind of fits that mold. There's probably 50 words on the 17-minute song, so maybe go check that out. And yeah, 9 out of 10, this is definitely a great project. Not Currents level, but still amazing.
I think this was an amazing alternative album to be our last review of the year. Hint, hint, next podcast will not be an album review, but I think you guys will like what's coming next. All right, that was it for today's main segment, and let's get into our playlist essentials. Today's playlist essentials is our favorite songs by underrated or lesser known artists. I think a lot of the artists that I listen to are rather mainstream, but there are a couple that I think deserve way more love. Some of these artists are definitely not completely unknown and underground, but I think they definitely deserve more listeners, which is why I wanted to kind of give a shout out to them. So for my number 3 spot, I have the song Scarlet by an artist named Holly Humberstone. I love this song. I think her voice is really, really unique, and I love kind of like the key changes in this song, and I don't know, I just really like this song. I know she has a couple of other ones that I wouldn't call popular songs, but ones I have heard on the radio a couple times. There's one called The Walls Are Way Too Thin that I heard on the radio, and that's kind of what introduced me to some of her music. But I think she's definitely a very underrated artist, and definitely give the song Scarlet a listen.
For my third song, I'm going with Crowns for Kings by Benny the Butcher. Now, you probably don't know who that is, similar to some of the other artists on this list, but man, what a song. As time has gone on, I've definitely shifted away from listening to hip hop and rap and stuff like that. It just I'm just not a big guy in that anymore. But man, I just can't get away from this song. Lyrically, it's incredible. There's a feature on it that's pretty good, and I think it's Benny the Butcher's best song. This is more of a shout out to him himself, the head of the Buffalo rap scene, keeping me involved. And he's got an album coming out in January, so I will be for sure streaming that. So I'm going Crowns for Kings with this one.
Okay, so for my second pick, I have the song Why Do You Feel So Down by Declan McKenna. I think a lot of you are definitely familiar with Declan McKenna's song Brazil. This is a very, very popular song. I hear it all over, especially TikTok, but it's a very like summery song that I think a lot of people are familiar with. Even if you don't know it's called Brazil, you definitely have heard the tune. But I love Declan McKenna's entire album. It's called What Do You Think About the Car? Interesting name. But I think that he is just such a unique artist. I absolutely love pretty much all of his work. And I wanted to give a specific shout out to Why Do You Feel So Down, because just from the very first beat of the song, you know it's going to be like a fun time, a fun listening experience. And I just love the song and I love this entire album. So if you're looking for something upbeat, alternative, but a little different, I definitely recommend listening to Declan McKenna.
For my next nod, I'm giving it to Prom/King by Saba. This song, oh my goodness, it's just such an incredible story. And you know, if you've been listening to this podcast, you know I'm a sucker for storytelling songs. This is just incredible. It's 2 parts. It's talking about navigating life in Chicago, and there's a prom, and it's just a whole, you could write a book about it, to be honest. So I'm going to say Prom/King by Saba is my second best song. Highly recommend listening to this one. It's just a really incredible story that he's telling.
Okay, so for my number one favorite song that I have here by an artist that I think is very underrated, I have the song Doomsday by Lizzie McAlpine. And I know Lizzie McAlpine isn't a completely unknown artist. She definitely has been growing, especially over the past couple years. But I do think she deserves way more credit than she's given. I love the song Doomsday. It's powerful, it's emotional, and you can just really hear kind of her raw emotion in the song. There is a key change kind of close to the end that it just gets me every time. This song is so beautiful, and I love pretty much all of her work, so I definitely recommend giving her a listen.
For my best song from these underrated, not well-known artists, I'm going Misunderstanding by Gum. This is a cover of the song Misunderstanding by Genesis, and Gum is actually an offspring of Tame Impala. It's one of the members of Tame Impala created this group, and man, this song is good. I swear everyone's heard the Genesis cover because I had, and I was like, oh, I recognize this song. Turns out it was not Gum, it was actually Genesis. But man, this song is great. I've been on a Gum listening spree as of late, so I really appreciate this song, and it's got the same Tame Impala production, the same feel. It's a little more rock as opposed to alternative, but it's still got that mystical feel to it, that futuristic sense you get when you listen to Tame Impala. So Misunderstanding by Gum, my number one.
Definitely take this as your sense day to expand your music taste and listen to some new artists. I have not heard of any of the artists Lucas mentioned, but I think that's what makes this segment so cool. We can kind of explore new artists. That was it for today's Playlist Essentials, and let's get into our final segment. Our final segment today is what to expect next. Because this is coming out on a Wednesday, we don't have our end of the week, what albums and songs are coming out, but we are going to touch upon what to expect in the next episode. Our next episode is our end of the year holiday special. And as I kind of mentioned earlier, we are not going to be doing an album review like we have been doing. We're going to be kind of doing an awards show of our favorite albums, artists, and just giving shout outs to what we think made music so special in the year 2023. This is going to be a very exciting time, super fun, and we are going to have a guest. So definitely stay tuned for that. This is going to be so fun. And yeah, any final words?
I mean, what can I say? It's going to be a hoot and a holler. We have a special guest coming on. I'm gonna keep it a secret, but let's just say it's a friend of the show, and I'm very excited. It's gonna be a blast. So be sure to tune in on Friday, right before the Christmas season. Get your last listen in, and we will be back in January after that with some new content. So definitely looking forward to that as well. And yeah, thank you for listening today.
Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye.